Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the first YouTube mini lecture of the semester. Hope you're all doing well. Um, Today I recall at the end of the last class, I said I would cover a few literary devices. I will do that now very briefly. I hope that you have looked at the annotation guidelines document that I included with your annotation exercise. That contains all the information that that I had planned to cover at the end of last class. I went over it rather quickly. So I'll just at the very end of that is that there are some just a very few literary devices that I'll cover. Since you're not English majors, I think it's worth covering those. And then I want to cover plagiarism, sources, documentation. I like to do this early in the course. I think that's important. So here we go. I'm going to try to do this in about 15 minutes. We'll see how I do now. I'm going to time myself here. All right, here we go. So let me give you this screen share. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that you remember these from high school. These are just there are many literary devices. These are just a few basic ones. And this is for English 1010. This is plenty. Simile, an explicit comparison using like or as. I include in each of these explanations here. I included a literary quote and a more common quote. So Robert Burns, "All my love's like a red, red rose." In this, obviously, we're comparing love, rose. This is cool as a cucumber. We're comparing he, whoever that is, to the coolness of the cucumber. Metaphor. That's an implicit comparison without the use of like or as. Shakespeare, "All the world's a stage." We have that written here. And "Love is a battlefield." That's from a song that was out in the early '80s when I was a young man by Pat Benatar. I'm sure that's on YouTube somewhere. Symbol. Something that represents something else. So again, sticking with love and roses, rose is commonly considered a symbol of love. But in this case, the symbol is not a comparison. It's you have a rose and it represents love. The distinction is a little difficult, but just remember that a symbol is not a comparison, but it represents something else. And finally, alliteration. The repetition of consonant sounds of a consonant sound in nearby words. Shakespeare went to the sessions of sweet silent thought, SSF. An easier one to remember. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Of course, the repetition of the P. That's just a few literary devices to look for when you're doing your close readings of our texts. Okay, this is the main material I wanted to get to. I hope I have enough time. Everything takes, I told you in the first class, everything takes longer on Zoom. First, briefly talk about sources. There are essentially two kinds of sources that you could use when you're writing a paper, in a sense. Primary sources. Those would be the work or works. It doesn't necessarily have to even be a written work. It could be writing an of art, a piece of music, but it's the main primary work, or could be works also, that you are discussing in your essay, in your paper. In a scientific context, that could also include data, statistics. Keep that in mind if I know that there's some science majors in here. And then secondary sources. Those would be articles, books that discuss, analyze, or offer criticism of the of primary sources. We will not be using secondary sources in English 1010. And in fact, the only sources we will be using, you will be using in your essays, and in your papers, in your written work, will be the essays that you are reading. Those will be your primary sources. You'll have plenty of opportunity to learn more about secondary sources in English 1012, the class that comes after this one. Okay. Documentation. There are many documentation styles. You'll understand what I mean by that shortly. Three most common are MLA, Modern Language Association, used in the humanities, certainly in English studies. MLA emphasizes in-text citation. You put your citations in parentheses directly in your text. I'll show you how to do that shortly. This is the style we'll be using for this class. This is very basic use of this style, but this is what we'll be using. Others, just so you know of them, other styles, Chicago Manual style, also used in humanities and notably in history. The historians prefer footnotes and endnotes over the in-text citation. And then APA, that is used in the sciences and in other fields of business, I believe. So yes, we will be using MLA. You'll be learning MLA in English 1010 and 1012. Even if you're in a major where you're going to be using another style, it's still good to learn a style. You'll know what a documentation style is, how to use it, and those skills are transferable to the other styles. Okay, this is I guess sort of meat and potatoes of this mini lecture. Academic integrity. Plagiarism, don't do it. It's wrong. It will harm you more than help you. There are often cases in the news of people plagiarizing. Recently, what was his name? Snopes, I believe it was, ran a website. He was plagiarizing, and he lost his credibility. That's what happens if you're caught plagiarizing. Your credibility is shot, and I don't want that to happen to you. So please don't plagiarize. And now the thing about plagiarism is you can in addition to doing it intentionally, you can also do it unintentionally, inadvertently, if you don't know how to document your sources. And that's why I like to cover this documentation early in the course. Some instructors wait until later in the semester to cover this. I like to cover it now. The two kinds of plagiarism: word for word plagiarism. That means you're lifting the text from some source, website, whatever. It could be a whole paper. Take that and insert it in your work. and you do not give proper credit. You give the impression that those ideas that you lifted are your own. And then secondly, paraphrasing pleasure. When you paraphrase something, and we'll deal with paraphrase more in coming either in our Zoom class or in the lecture. We'll talk more about paraphrasing. But when you paraphrase, put something in your own words, and you are paraphrasing someone else's ideas, you must also document. And it's kind of a clever video here from the Lehman College Library where they have a plagiarism website, and there's a very clever video here. I'm going to show that right now. So watch this, please.
So we're dangling this life-size mannequin out a window, and the girls below are freaking, right? And right at that moment,
your mother comes in.
Yeah.
And then you drop the mannequin.
I've told this story before, huh?
No. Marcus told me. It's Marcus's story.
Stole my story, bro.
No, I didn't.
That's exactly what happened to me, except it wasn't a mannequin. It's a cardboard cutout.
Yeah, but I paraphrased. Now it's my story.
You know that every time you use a direct quote in a paper, you have to add a citation. But did you know that you have to cite everything you paraphrase too? Think about it. Paraphrasing is just restating someone else's ideas in your own words. If you don't include a citation, people will think those ideas are yours. It's plagiarism. And that kind of paraphrasing where you switch a few words around and maybe like cut out the end of a sentence, that's actually plagiarism too. To paraphrase correctly, you have to restate the author's ideas entirely in your own words. That's hard to do, especially if you're working on your paper at the last minute. The best way to avoid plagiarism? Start working on your paper early. Read your sources carefully and take the time to think about how a source relates to your thesis statement. And remember, if you quote or paraphrase anything, cite it.
Look, all you got to do is say, according to Marcus Williams, tell the story, and then show them this.
What's that?
Come on, man. It's the APA citation.
Oh.
Okay, so there you go. That gives you a lot of useful information. Please remember it. And this, I have a link to this Lehman College site on our Blackboard site under course documents. There are also, it's a good site. They've got even have some comics on there, but that discuss important topics. So we might want to check that out. Okay, let me try to stay to this 15-minute limit here. All right, so what is not plagiarism? Your own ideas in your own work. It's your idea, okay, then write it, okay, and or using common knowledge in your work. What do I mean by common knowledge? Widely accepted and readily available facts that your reading audience would be familiar with or would be able to look up in a general reference work, encyclopedia. Well, I'm showing my age. Online, encyclopedia, whatever. Easily available facts. John F. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. That's well-known fact. That's common knowledge. Earth is the third planet from the sun. The sum of angles and a triangle is 180 degrees. Things like this. That's common knowledge. You don't have to cite that in your essays. If you're in doubt, it's better to cite. Okay. Now, so I told you only need to know very basic MLA documentation for this class. So you may want to know what you need to know for this class. Okay, so first of all, you do a direct quote, quotation marks. All right. Some of you may be familiar with block quotes, where you indent and you have 4, 5 more lines. I don't allow that in this class, because the essays are short, and I want to hear, I want to read your ideas, not long quotes from something else. Right? And then you must also document the source. I'll get to that. And we will not be. I already told you that. And if you paraphrase, you still must document. Yes. Okay, let's go to yes. So you might want to know then exactly documenting the source. I'm finally going to get to that now. So there's an in MLA. There's an in-text parenthetical citation. There's also a list of works cited. Your list of works cited in this class will have one, maybe, well, in the compare and contrast, I'll probably have 2 sources. They'll be very simple. I'll help you do them, but I want you to get that initial experience with doing that. Now, any source that has page numbers, when you cite something from that source, it's going to include, the citation is going to include the page number. So for instance, I wrote some very basic examples here. I used the excerpt from the narrative that was in our annotation exercise. So that excerpt happened to come from page 28 of the text that we're using. Douglas writes in his narrative that it was, quote, that he, quote, was utterly astonished, unquote, at his new Mrs. demeanor toward him. All right. So I'm citing this direct quote from page 28 of the narrative. All right. The placement, you can, by the way, I'll be giving all this information will be in the handout. The placement of the citation, you can read about that. I know because I'm getting short on time. I may have to continue this on Thursday. I'll go a couple of minutes or so more here. If you're paraphrasing, still, as I said a couple of times already, as the video showed, you must cite. Okay, now here, so this is an example sentence out of context that I wrote in my own words, but with no direct quotes. Becoming a slaveholder changes. This is all this mistress. This is all demeanor towards Douglas. Citation. Okay. Now, if you have more than one source in your paper, there may be some confusion about which source you're citing. In that case, you're going to include the author's name with the page number. In this case, this example here, Douglas. Okay. Then you will have, so this Douglas 28 refers to this list of works cited. I will show you, don't worry about this now. I'll show you how to do this in a later class. All right. Just understand that it refers to a list of works cited. And you'll have, as I said, in some papers, you might have 2 sources here. Lastly, some of the essays we'll be reading, the copies I have on Blackboard do not have page numbers. They were taken from online sources. In that case, all you can do is use the author's name. So that's what you'll do. That's all you need for this class. That's all you need to know about MLA. It may look like a lot here in this these slides I'm showing you, but you'll find that it's this much of it. It's just pretty. You'll get it. It's pretty easy. So I'm out of time. I actually ran about 3 minutes over here. Let me unshare the screen here. I am looking forward to reading your discussion board posts and responses. Today is Friday. Earlier today I posted the prompt for your posts for the Trayvon generation. So I look forward to reading what you have to say. It's quite an essay. I'm sure you agree. And all right, goodbye until Thursday. And any questions, concerns, please email me. Okay, bye-bye.